You missed a spot." That's what the girl in heels said as she kicked her coffee cup toward me, splashing the last of it on the tiles I had just finished scrubbing. I looked up, not because I cared, but because it stung more than I expected. "You're just a janitor," her friend added with a laugh, walking past me like I was nothing more than a stain on the floor. "My name is Melanie Cruz. I'm 41, and yes, I am, or rather, I was, a janitor." That morning, I was 2 hours into my shift in the downtown high-rise where I'd been cleaning offices for the past 6 years. My uniform was faded, my knees ached, and my pride? Let's just say it had taken more hits than I could count. I didn't always scrub toilets for a living. I used to run my own business, a small real estate investment firm I built from scratch. But when my ex-husband drained our accounts and fled to the Caribbean with his secretary and our savings, I had to start over. With no money, no contacts, and a credit score dragged through the mud, I took the only job I could get. Cleaning floors by day, studying loan applications and foreclosure filings by night. You see, even as I mopped floors, I never stopped being who I was. I watched, I listened, I remembered. That morning, the 2 women who sneered at me, Amanda and Taylor, worked in marketing on the 14th floor. They treated me like I was invisible, but I saw them clearly. Amanda with her shiny desk nameplate and sky-high arrogance. Taylor with her laugh that sounded like glass shattering, always loudest when someone else was hurting. It wasn't the first time. 2 months ago, Amanda spilled her salad and barked at me like I was a pet. "You get paid for this, right? So do your job." Her tone made it clear. My work made me beneath her. I said nothing then, just smiled and kept wiping. But something snapped that day with the coffee cup. Not because they humiliated me, I'd been humiliated before, but because in that exact moment I realized they genuinely believed I would never be anything more than what they saw in front of them. A janitor on her knees, a woman who had nothing. And that assumption was going to cost them. I stood up, slowly, deliberately, and looked Amanda in the eyes. "Careful how you treat people on the way up," I said quietly, "because you never know who owns the elevator." She scoffed, tossed her blonde hair, and walked off with Taylor cackling behind her. But what they didn't know was that just last week a foreclosure notice had gone public. The building they worked in, the one they strutted around like it was their kingdom, it was in deep debt. And I'd been watching. For months, I'd been pooling together every cent, calling in favors, negotiating behind the scenes. I'd found investors, quiet ones, who trusted my vision. All I needed was one green light. And yesterday afternoon, I got it. So as Amanda walked away, I didn't feel small anymore. I felt focused. The kind of focus that sharpens when you've been kicked too many times and finally decide to stand up. Because tomorrow, I wasn't coming in with a mop. I was coming in with keys. And this time, I wouldn't be the one wiping the mess. The next morning, I woke up earlier than usual, not to grab my mop, but to put on the navy blue blazer I hadn't worn in years. It still fit, barely. I brushed my curls, applied a light touch of makeup, and stared at myself in the mirror. No cleaning cart, no bleach-stained gloves. Just me, Melanie Cruz, property owner. By 8:15 a.m., I stood in the lobby of the same building where I used to mop footprints off the floor before anyone arrived. Except now, the front desk security greeted me with a confused look instead of a nod of dismissal. "Ma'am, can I help you?" Robert, the day guard, asked, eyeing my blazer like I didn't belong in it. I gave him a small smile. "Yes, I'm here to meet with the property manager." "Oh, Mr. Hardwell." "No, I'll be meeting with the tenants directly. I'm the new owner of the building." His eyebrows shot up. "You're the... Oh, wow. I didn't know it had been sold. It was finalized last night. But don't worry, Robert, you're safe. Your contract continues. In fact, I'll be adding health benefits and an extra week of paid vacation for building staff." He blinked, clearly stunned. "Thank you, Ms. Cruz." My heels clicked across the marble floor I once scrubbed on my knees. I rode the elevator up to the 14th floor, the marketing department, Amanda and Taylor's domain. The office was buzzing, laughter, coffee brewing, that fake workplace cheer that masks tired ambition. I stepped into the conference room where their weekly meeting was about to begin. The receptionist gave me a hesitant look, but before she could stop me, I walked straight in. Amanda was mid-sentence, whiteboard marker in hand, scribbling something. Half brilliant and half obvious about market trends. She turned and froze. "Oh," she said, blinking rapidly. "Janet, why is the cleaning staff in here?" Taylor snorted into her coffee. I didn't respond. I pulled a folder from my bag, set it on the table, and flipped it open. "I'm not here to clean," I said. "I'm here to inform you of a change in ownership. As of this morning, this building is under new management." Amanda's brows pinched. "What are you talking about?" "I own the building," I said, calm and even. "Effective immediately." Taylor laughed out loud until I slid the legal documents across the table. Their eyes darted to the title, Property Transfer Agreement, Cruise Holdings LLC. Silence. Amanda's voice cracked first. You bought this place?" I nodded. "You're a janitor," Taylor whispered, voice small. "Was," I corrected. "But even while I cleaned your spills, I was studying your leases, watching the foreclosure filings, tracking the owner's debts. I knew this building would go up for sale before you even knew it was in trouble." Amanda looked pale. "You've been planning this?" "No, I've been rebuilding. There's a difference." The office went quiet. Someone in the back stifled a gasp. I turned to the floor staff. "I'll be reviewing tenant contracts over the next few weeks," I announced. "Those who contribute positively to the building will stay. Those who treat others like they're beneath them will not." Taylor's mug slipped out of her hand and shattered on the floor. I smiled. "How ironic," I said softly. "You missed a spot." They stood there stunned, clinging to the belief that maybe, just maybe, this wasn't real, but it was. And for the first time in years, I wasn't the invisible woman pushing a cart. I was the one with the pen. And I had a list. I didn't. Always scrub toilets and sweep crumbs off conference room floors. 6 years ago, I owned 3 rental properties and a tidy little nest egg. I had a plan for early retirement and a daughter in college. My life was steady, even hopeful. But betrayal doesn't send a warning text. It crashes down like a wave and takes everything with it. My husband, Nathan, had always handled the finances. Or so I thought. I was busy juggling clients, paperwork, property inspections. I didn't see the late mortgage notices hidden in his desk drawer. I didn't know he'd taken out a second loan on our house without my signature. And I certainly didn't see it coming when he vanished with our joint savings and another woman, someone younger, blonde, and less tired from responsibility. I remember the day I came home to an empty house and a note on the counter that read, "You deserve better. But I need different." No warning, no apology, just silence and debt collectors pounding on my door within a week. I lost everything. The properties were foreclosed. My credit tanked. My phone rang day and night, each call another reminder that my life was in ruins. And the worst part? My daughter Camilla had to leave college. I couldn't afford tuition anymore. I felt like I'd failed her, failed both of us. That's when I picked up a mop. A friend from church told me about a night janitor position in a corporate office building. It was humiliating, but I took it. Bills needed paying, Camilla needed food, and I needed a lifeline. It was brutal work. People didn't see me. They saw the uniform. They assumed I was dumb, uneducated, invisible. But I was watching. Every night after my shift, I'd sit in the break room and read. Real estate newsletters, foreclosure auction guides, local investment filings. I taught myself everything I could about buying distressed properties and rebuilding credit from the ground up. I started small. I flipped my first contract on a foreclosed duplex in a neighborhood no one wanted to touch. I didn't even buy it outright. I wholesaled the deal and made just $5,000. But that was enough to get my name on someone's radar. And I kept going, quietly, patiently, one deal at a time. I met people who were willing to mentor me, men and women who respected grit more than credentials. Slowly, I rebuilt. Camilla eventually went back to school on a scholarship. She never complained. She worked part-time, studied hard, and called me every night to check in. She was my why. I never told anyone at work what I was doing. To them, I was just the quiet woman with the gray cleaning cart and the tired eyes. They didn't see me, and I let them believe it. That invisibility became my superpower. I walked the building like it was mine, because one day I knew it would be. I memorized tenant names, office layouts, lease expiration dates. I saw the neglected plumbing issues, the overpriced parking contracts, the signs of financial strain the original owners ignored. I saw everything, and I waited. Until last month, when the building's financial records became public, and I realized it was time. I made the calls. I pitched to 2 silent investors I'd done favors for over the years, people who owed me small victories. We moved fast, cash deal, no delays, clean contract. I signed the closing documents in a borrowed office with chipped furniture and a flickering overhead light. No champagne, no applause. But I didn't need an audience. Because I hadn't climbed back up for applause. I did it to prove something, not to Amanda or Taylor, or even my ex-husband. I did it for me. And now that I had my foot back on solid ground, I intended to build higher, stronger. And this time, no one was going to knock me down again. By the time the shock wore off and Amanda found her voice, again, I'd already met with the building's head of operations and legal team. I wasn't here just to own the walls and floors. I was restructuring everything from the top down. And Amanda's department? Their lease had been month to month, for nearly a year. The former landlord had never renewed it. Too much risk. Too much noise. She didn't know that. Until now. I was standing near the reception desk on the 14th floor when she stormed out of the conference room, papers in hand, her heels clicking with that same false authority I remembered from when she used to step over my cleaning cart. "You can't do this," she said, her voice loud, sharp like a slap. "Do what?" I asked calmly. "Just walk in and pretend like you have the power to uproot people's lives." I raised an eyebrow. "Amanda, is that not exactly what you've done? For years?" She faltered for a moment. Taylor came out behind her, looking less bold now. Her face was pale, lips trembling around words she couldn't seem to form. "You said you're going to review tenant contracts?" Amanda snapped. "Well, ours is solid." "Is it?" I asked. I pulled out the digital file I had prepared, highlighted with timestamps and expired renewal notices. "It expired 10 months ago. You've been on a temporary lease, which means I can terminate it with 30 days' notice, or immediately, if necessary." Her jaw dropped. "I've already spoken with legal," I continued. "Given the number of complaints about your department's behavior, including 3 from janitorial staff, 2 from receptionists, and 1 from another tenant, you're in violation of our new code of conduct policy." "You're bluffing," Amanda hissed. "You're replaceable," I said. I turned to Taylor, who was holding onto her purse like it was a lifeline. "And you, Taylor, that just a janitor comment from yesterday? That was caught on building. Audio, public space, documented harassment." Taylor looked ready to cry. "Wait," Amanda said, trying to regain ground. "You're punishing us for something personal." "No," I said, keeping my tone steady. "I'm holding you accountable for something professional. There's a difference." I turned and began walking down the hallway toward the elevators. Amanda followed me. "You know how hard we've worked?" she hissed. "You don't get to just take our careers away." I stopped and turned, meeting her eyes. "You didn't just laugh at me, Amanda. You made this place unbearable for anyone you thought was beneath you. You created a culture where kindness was weakness and disrespect was currency. And now, the economy's changed." I pushed the elevator button. "You can't do this," she said again, but her voice cracked this time, less fury, more fear. "You already did it to yourself." The elevator dinged, and then, right as the doors opened, Robert stepped out holding a small box of items. He glanced at me, then looked at Amanda. "They just handed me your clearance forms," he said. "You're both being moved to the temp suite on the ground floor until further notice." Amanda's face flushed red. "You mean the mailroom offices?" "They've been converted for provisional staff." Taylor let out a noise like a hiccup. She looked like she might throw up. Amanda stood frozen, speechless. "Keys," I said simply. She hesitated, then slowly reached into her purse. "With A trembling hand, she handed me the set. Building keys, office fobs, everything. They jingled slightly as I took them from her. Taylor followed. Her keys shook as they dropped into my hand. I looked down at them, then up at both of them. Funny how heavy something so small can feel, I said. Then I stepped into the elevator, the doors closing on the stunned silence behind me. I didn't smile. Not yet. Because this wasn't just about revenge. It was about reshaping the place that once broke me into something better. 2 days later, I walked through the building not as a landlord enforcing rules, but as a woman with a mission. Owning. The building wasn't the end goal. It was just the foundation. What I really wanted was to create something I never had. A workplace that treated people like people, regardless of their title, role, or shoes. So I began. The first thing I did was schedule one-on-one meetings with every single department head. Not through email, not with memos. I walked in, introduced myself, and said, "Tell me what you'd fix here if you could." Some were shocked, a few were suspicious. But most opened up. The tech support lead said they'd been asking for ergonomic chairs for over a year, but had been ignored. The receptionist told me she'd been working 12-hour days without overtime. The janitorial night team, my old team, nearly cried when I announced a pay raise, health benefits, and the installation of a dedicated break room with proper seating and hot food access. One of them, Miguel, looked at me and said, "You're the reason I stayed this long. You never looked down on me." He'd been there the day I started. I shook his hand and said, "It's our time now." We also cleaned house, literally and metaphorically. Toxic managers, gone, lazy contracts, reviewed, office policies, rewritten from scratch to reflect dignity, inclusion, and accountability. There were whispers, of course. Some tenants didn't like the change. A few even threatened to leave. I let them. Because I didn't want to fill the space with people who treated others the way Amanda had treated me. The space she and Taylor vacated was turned into a mentorship hub, open twice a week to local women re-entering the workforce. We partnered with an outreach nonprofit, and I made sure every woman who walked in had a chance to feel seen. I spent hours there myself, sitting beside women who reminded me of the me I'd been. Scared, broke, tired. We talked about resumes, investments, credit repair, the power of silence, and the importance of speaking up. One of them, a single mother named Letitia, told me, "You make it feel possible again." That hit me. Because when I'd been on my hands and knees scrubbing floors, what I'd wanted, more than anything, was just that, possibility. And now I was handing it back. But amidst all the noise of change, something unexpected happened. Camilla came home. She walked into my office, my real office, not a janitor's closet, and set her backpack down on the couch. "I got the job," she said, beaming. She'd landed a junior legal assistant role across town and wanted to surprise me. She wore a second-hand blazer and nervous pride all over her face. I stood up and hugged her tight. "You did it," I whispered. "No, Mom," she said. "We did it." She looked around the office and her eyes welled up. "Is this really yours now?" "All of it," I said, gesturing around the room. "And Amanda?" she asked, smirking. "In the mailroom offices," I replied. "For now." She laughed, then shook her head. "I hope they learned something." I smiled, softly. We all do eventually, the hard way. Later that night, as I locked up, I stood in the same spot where Amanda once spilled coffee at my feet. The floor still shined, because people like Miguel had pride in their work. And now, that pride was finally being respected. The past wasn't erased. It was still there, stitched into the corners of this building. But now, so was hope, and dignity, and redemption. And I realized that revenge, when used right, isn't about making someone hurt. It's about reclaiming the space where you once hurt, and making sure no one else bleeds there again. It was 2 weeks later when I saw Amanda again. I was reviewing blueprints in the lobby, plans to open a shared community workspace on the second floor, when I heard the elevator ding and caught a glimpse of her stepping out. Gone were the sleek heels and designer pencil skirts. Her makeup looked rushed, her hair tied back in a frizzy knot. She clutched a cardboard box against her chest like it was shielding her from the world. We locked eyes. For a second, I thought she'd turn back. But she didn't. She walked right toward me, head high, yet her pace uncertain. "Ms. Cruz," she said. I looked up from the table and gestured toward the empty seat across from me. "Amanda." She hesitated, then sat. For a moment, she said nothing. Her hands fidgeted with a cracked phone case. "I wanted to say I found another job," she said finally. "Part-time, small PR firm in the suburbs." I nodded. "That's good." "They don't know," she added quickly, almost defensively, "about all this." I tilted my head. "And what would all this be, exactly?" Her eyes dropped. What I did, how I treated people, how I treated you. There it was. A crack in the glass. "You were never on my radar, Melanie," she admitted. "And I don't say that as an excuse. I say that because I didn't even think about the janitor. You weren't a person to me, just background." I exhaled slowly. That's what hurt the most. "I know," she whispered. "I realized it when I walked into that temp office. No desk, no welcome. No one asked about my ideas. No one laughed at my jokes. I was background." We sat in silence. "I lost my apartment," she continued. "Had to move in with a cousin. Taylor's been couch surfing. We both thought we were climbing the ladder. Turns out we were on a floor that didn't exist." I studied her face. Not the same sharp, smug woman who once flicked her coffee cup at my shoes. This Amanda looked deflated, human. "I thought if I could be the best," she said, "no one would look down on me, so I started looking down on others first." I said nothing, let her words hang in the air like confession. Then she added, "I don't expect forgiveness. I just needed to say it." She stood. "You have every right to hate me, Melanie, but I hope one day you won't." She walked out without waiting for an answer. And to my surprise, I didn't feel satisfaction. I felt weight. Not guilt, but something close. Like standing at the edge of a past that could finally be buried if I was willing to let go. Taylor's encounter came later, unexpected, awkward, and oddly more painful. I was walking past a coffee shop near the building when I saw her, behind the counter, wearing a green apron and wiping down a table. She saw me, froze, then walked over. "Melanie," she said, almost breathless, "I didn't think I'd see you here." "I own the block now," I said, not unkindly. She laughed, weakly. "Of course you do." She looked down at the rag in her hand. "Do you ever get used to being ignored?" she asked quietly. "Because I feel invisible now." I met her gaze. "No one gets used to it. Some of us just learn how to rise through it." She nodded slowly. "I deserved what happened. I know that now." Then she smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "Tell Robert I said hi. He always deserved better, too." I walked away without saying much more. Some moments don't need closure, they just need an ending. And that's what this felt like. The end of the chapter where I was less than. Where I had to explain my worth. Now, I didn't have to. Because even those who once looked through me finally saw me. The next Monday morning, I arrived early, just like I used to. But this time, I didn't park behind the building where no one could see me. I parked in the owner's space. My name was freshly stenciled on the curb. Monsieur Cruz, Executive Access. A small thing, but it felt enormous. I stood in the lobby with a coffee in hand and watched as people trickled in. Staff, interns, executives, delivery drivers. Some smiled, some nodded, some just walked past, busy with their own mornings. And I didn't need recognition from any of them, because I had mine, from myself, from Camilla, from every woman who walked into our mentorship space and said, "You're the reason I didn't give up." I remembered the nights I cried in silence after scrubbing bathrooms no one noticed, the way my feet throbbed, the way people didn't look at me, didn't see me. I remembered my ex-husband's note, the foreclosure letters, the phone that wouldn't stop ringing. And then I remembered the first contract I signed after that. The first time someone shook my hand and said, "I trust you." I remembered the day Camilla said she was proud of me. I remembered the look on Amanda's face, not the one filled with hate, but the one filled with regret. I remembered the weight of their keys in my hand. And I remembered standing tall, finally in the building that once made me feel so small. That memory, those memories, they didn't break me. They built me, brick by brick, blow by blow. There's something people don't tell you about being broken. If you survive it, you become someone no one can shake, because you've already seen the worst, and you're still here. I stood at the third-floor balcony window overlooking the street. The city was waking up. Horns, footsteps, laughter, chaos. And in the middle of all of it, peace. Not because everything was perfect, but because I was no longer waiting for permission. To rise, I'd given it to myself. Camilla joined me that afternoon. She brought lunch, like she always did when she had a free hour. We sat in my office, feet up, shoes off, laughing about her boss who couldn't figure out how to mute Zoom. "Do you miss it?" she asked suddenly. "Miss what?" "Being invisible." I smiled. "No, but I'm grateful for it." She tilted her head. "When no one sees you," I said, "you can watch everything. You see what people are really made of. And when you rise, it's not because someone handed you a ladder, it's because you built one." She leaned her head on my shoulder. "I'm proud of you, Mom." "I'm proud of us," I whispered, and that was it.